We have some fast solar wind that's hitting Earth right now and causing a solar storm. But is it as big as all the hype? Those stories and more in the news this week. Solar activity has been pretty quiet this week, but the news media sure hasn't. Have you guys been on the internet lately? Apparently there's this massive solar storm that's supposed to hit Earth, but all I see is some fast wind from this coronal hole that's rotating into the Earth strike zone. As a matter of fact, the fast wind from this coronal hole has hit Earth already. It's bumped us up to active conditions right now, and it may bump us up to storm levels, but minor storm levels over the next day or so. This means we're beginning to see aurora at high latitudes. We might get some aurora down to mid latitudes, but just for a short while. We are having some HF issues, so you amateur radio operators are dealing with some propagation issues, but you might get some decent aurora propagation on the night side, and GPS is most likely a little bit glitchy here and there. But you're not having the huge power grid issues or any catastrophes that what you've seen on the media. So everybody can relax and rest easy. The storm will be over in a few days, and Earth will go back to business as usual. Switching to your M-flare threat meter, you can see the X-ray flux remains incredibly low. That means the solar flux is also extremely low. In fact, the last time we even popped any C-class flares was back at the beginning of March when region 2701 was still on Earth's side of the sun. Now it's rotated to the sun's backside, and we've got probably about 10 more days before that region rotates back into Earth view. We have a spotless sun on Earth-facing disk right now, so that means your amateur radio operators, your suffering with very poor propagation conditions, and that will continue easily over the next week. Switching to our solar storm conditions, you can see over the past couple weeks we've been extremely quiet when it comes to solar storms. We've been sitting at normal to unsettled conditions. In fact, the only time we got any activity was back around the 10th when we had that near stealthy solar storm hit us. It brought us up to active conditions and brought aurora down to mid-latitudes for just a few moments before the aurora retreated back north again. Since then, things have been pretty quiet, but we just got hit by that fast wind. You can see we've bumped back up to active conditions, and we may bump up to storm levels here over the next couple days. We could see some sporadic storm conditions, and things will start settling down probably around the weekend. And although the recent solar storm wasn't enough to bump us to storm levels, it was enough to give us some gorgeous aurora all over the world, like this in Norway and in Sweden and Finland, and in Scotland. We even saw it in Shetland and the UK. Now moving over the pond, it was caught in Iceland. And then in Canada, it was all over Canada. We saw it in the Yukon and in Yellowknife, in Manitoba, in central Alberta, in British Columbia, and of course in the United States it was seen in Alaska, but it even made it to the continental United States, including views in Wisconsin and in Minnesota. And then down south it was seen in several places in New Zealand. So what else does the sun have in store for us this week? Well, this is stereo A. It's our backside monitor. You can see here's Earth, here's the sun, and here's stereo A staring at the sun from behind. And what you can immediately see is that there's not a lot more activity on the sun's backside than there is on the sun's Earth side right now, because we continue to approach solar minimum. You do see region 2701 as it begins to rotate across the backside of the sun, and it actually has another companion active region that begins to form here. It's just beginning to form here in the last day or so. Those regions both will rotate back into Earth view in about 10 days or so, and that might actually give us a bump up for the solar flux, so you amateur radio operators might be able to enjoy some better propagation. Now, along with that, we kind of have a remnant of a coronal hole that also will be rotating onto the Earth side of the sun here in about the next week, and it actually might be able to bring us maybe some small solar storming here in about 2 weeks. Switching to your solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are in the middle of being hit by that fast wind from that finger-like coronal hole, and we have already bumped up to active conditions. At high latitudes, NOAA's expecting minor storm conditions with about a 55% chance of a major storm. At mid-latitudes, we are expecting active conditions, which we've reached, and we have a decent chance of reaching storm conditions, but it'll be sporadic, and it'll be over the next couple days or so, and especially at high latitudes, we could be storming like this maybe in through the weekend before things begin to settle down. Switching to your solar flare and particle radiation storm outlook over the coming week, despite what you may have read in the media, everything is still in the green when it comes to solar flares. We have a spotless sun, so that means you GPS operators on the day side, you're probably loving life because everything is so quiet. But you poor amateur radio operators, you're probably hating things on the day side because this means your solar flux is extremely low and you're suffering with poor propagation. Now on the night side of Earth with the solar storm that's hitting now, you amateur radio operators might like things a bit better. You probably get some sporadic propagation and you can definitely take advantage of the auroral modes for communication. But you GPS operators need to be a little bit more careful. Even at mid-latitudes, especially near the aurora, your GPS might get a little bit glitchy. So the space weather this week is definitely picking up, maybe not as much as the hype that you might be reading on the internet, but still, we do have some fast wind that's hitting Earth right now, and it has bumped us up to active conditions with a chance of some decent storming conditions. So your aurora photographers, you're already beginning to celebrate. I'm seeing it on the internet with some decent aurora photos, and this storming will continue. It could even bring aurora down to mid-latitudes over the next couple days. Now, you amateur radio operators aren't quite so happy. We've got poor propagation right now on the Earth's day side, and that's because the solar flux is so low. But in about 7 to 10 days, we might get a boost in solar flux when some regions rotate back into Earth view. So if you can just hang out till then, things might actually improve and get us back up into marginal conditions. And you GPS operators, you should be in the clear as long as you stay clear of that aurora. I'm Tamitha Scove. Thank you for watching.